Hello viewers, welcome to Telugu One Academy. We are discussing Article 29 and 30 here in Fundamental Rights. Article 29 and 30, that is cultural and educational rights. We have already discussed right to equality from Article 14 to 18, right to freedom from Article 19 to 21, right against exploitation Article 23 and Article 24, right to freedom of religion from Article 25 to Article 28. So this cultural and educational rights are provided in the fundamental rights. So when the Constitution gave us right to freedom of religion, right to equality, right to freedom of expression, assembly, occupation, these all rights are also interlinked with cultural and educational rights. So in right to freedom, that is under Article 21A, we have universal compulsory education, that is free and compulsory education for all the children who are from 6 to 14 years of age. 6 to 14 years of age children are to be provided free and compulsory education, and it is the responsibility of the state. It's a fundamental right now. So this is again linked with our cultural and educational rights. So when we talk about cultural rights, what is this culture? As we know, every religion or every sect of the people have their own distinctive culture. They have their own identity, a unique language, unique script, maybe a unique dance, music, art, architecture, anything. So that could be their own culture, and that particular culture may be their identity. So every distinctive group have the right to protect and preserve their own culture. This is what Article Culture and Educational Rights under 29 says. So let's get into the Article 29. Protection of interest of minorities. So when we say protection of interest, what interest we need to protect? In terms of language, in terms of script, in terms of their own culture, their belief, their faith, all should be protected. So protection of interest of minorities, it's a broad word, protection of interest. It may also include educational interest, their belief, their system, doctrines, rituals, whatever they have. So in terms of script, language, art, so we call it as a culture. So culture need to be protected under Article 29. So to protect, in the journey to protect their culture, they can establish and administer educational institutions, because educational institutions are the places where their culture is revived. There will be a lot of debate, discussion to further improve or develop such script, language or art, dance, etc. Educational institution provide for progress and development of their people who are from that particular religion. So educational institutions are modern temples where one's culture is protected, preserved and progressed. So this Article 29 and 30 are intended to protect the interest of minorities. Here we say, when we say minorities, under Article 29, we also mean them as linguistic minorities. So what Article 29 says? Under Article 29 Clause 1, any section of the citizens residing in any territory, in any area, they have all the rights to preserve their language, their script, their culture. That is, they have the right to conserve the language, distinct language, culture of its own. So, no one should impose restrictions, or no one should interfere in others' culture. That is prohibited. So, if a section of people or a group of people who have their own identity in the form of language should not be compelled to take other language or forcefully compelled to speak in other language, because that particular language is the identity of that particular section. So when we say minorities, here there may be a linguistic minority under a majority religion. In Hindu also, in Hindu religion, there may be many linguistic minority people who in this process of development may be left behind. So our constitution ensures that such minority people should be given right to preserve and protect their distinctive identity. So this Article 29, it is not only for minorities as such. As this terminology, what we say minorities, it's not about religious minorities only. It is also about linguistic minorities. So Article 29 is not completely dedicated to religious minorities. This article, minorities, here means linguistic minorities and also religious minorities. So in this we have two provisions. One is protects the right of a group, because when we say language, culture, art and all, it is a matter of a group, a community, a sect or a group of followers. So this article protects the interest of the group. And when we say Article 25, this article protects individual interest. That is what Article 25 says: right to freedom of conscience, right to, we have all the freedom to profess, practice and propagate any religion. So it is individual right. As an individual, that person can listen to his inner voice, he can take any religion, or if he is following some religion, due to many reasons he could convert to other religion. He may not be also part of any religion. That is individual interest. That Article 25 focuses on individual. Article 29 focuses on a community, a group, where we say protection of culture. The culture develops when there is a community, there is a group, and a group has the responsibility to protect their distinctive or unique culture, which is under threat maybe. So protect of rights of a group of people. And this provision also says that guarantees the right of a citizen. So individually also, no person shall be compelled or forced to not use their identity or to not follow their culture. So every community has their distinctive culture, and no one or no person shall be compelled to not follow their culture. So what types of minorities we have? This article, that is Article 29, says that we have linguistic minorities and religious minorities. Here, when we say linguistic minorities, these minority people may be in majority religion. So, in a majority religion, that is when we say Hinduism, and Hinduism also has Sikhism, Jainism and Buddhism. So, all three sects are also included in Hinduism. So, in Hinduism, we may also have a linguistic minorities, that is very small group of people who speak in that language. Generally, when we say Hinduism, there are many languages, but there may be very small group of people who maybe do not have a script but speak some distinctive language, and Constitution has given the right to protect their own language, own culture. And obviously we have religious minorities. For example, in India, Jainism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Christianity, Muslim, Islamism, so these are religious minorities, and the state has given them the right to protect their language, their script, their culture, and also given the right to establish their educational institutions for protection of their culture and all. So, not necessarily this article, that is Article 29, it's not necessarily restricted for minorities alone. When we say section of citizens, it may also include minorities as well as majority. In majority also, there are a section of people who are minor. Every minor people in this majority will not speak all the languages, like major languages like Hindi, Bangla, Tamil, Telugu and all. So there may be some distinct language which the majority of people also speaks. So this article is unqualified. When we say wide and unqualified, this has to be protected. So when we say unqualified, it is the government can interfere in such matters. It confers a special right not only to the minority but to the majority for admission in the state maintained educational institutions. So this article also gives right to the religious denominations or religious people to establish their own educational institutions. We have institutions for Christianity, for Muslims, for Hindus, etc. There are many educational institutions. As we say, a congregation like a Christianity, there are many Christian colleges, Christian schools who impart the education for the upliftment of Christian people, or they would spread the Christianity. That is Article 29. When we say Article 30, this is purely about minorities. This article is exclusive about minorities, and this is regarding the establishment of educational institutions. So Article 30 says that the state shall take steps and it should make an opportunity, give an opportunity to the people of minorities to establish their own educational institutions. So the state will not stop or curtail the freedom to establish minority educational institutions. This thing, compulsory acquisition of any property. So earlier, before repealing the right to property, we had property under the name of educational institutions. But after repealing the right to property under Article 19 Clause 1F, when we have repealed this under Article 31, now we have given a legal right to property, that is under Article 300. Actually it was a fundamental right, then we made it as a only legal right, and the government has taken many lands or acquisition of property, but the government has compensated for it. There should be an equal amount of compensation for those educational institutions when there is a taking away or acquisition of the property. So this is done by 44th Constitutional Amendment Act. and the state shall not discriminate in granting aid. This means, as we have multi-religions in our country, the state should give equal importance to all the religions. When it is spending some amount from the government budget, it should spend in a proportion to the population. Any particular religion should not be given importance or priority over other religions. This is again a concept of unique secularism what we follow in our India. State does not have any religion, but again state should not discriminate any religion at the cost of other. So all religions should be treated equally. Here when we say spending of budget or granting aid, the state shall not discriminate any religion. But here, when we have minorities, here we have a positive kind of discrimination. Here we are not against the reverse discrimination. When we say we are giving importance to the minorities, because we know the state should give a positive lift to minorities so that the fruits of development is equally distributed. Or otherwise, if the state does not provide grants to such minorities, they may be left back. Again, we can say this is contradicting Article 14, or there is no equality. But here, because minorities have their own persisting problems, they need to be protected by active involvement from the state. I would say that the state should not discriminate, but there should be a positive approach to bring them at par with the majority. That is where we could say that we are secular and we are striving for equality. So here discrimination is positive. This is also like providing reservation for underprivileged sections like SCs, STs and economically backward class, and also economically backward in other caste, upper caste people also. So Article 30 grants rights to minorities in establishing educational institutions. So what kind of educational institutions are there which seek recognition as well as aid? So the state will give recognition as well as aid, that is financial aid in terms of grants, in terms of budget, finance and all. Seek only recognition, not aid. There are many educational institutions which seek only recognition from the state. They will arrange their grant from other sources. There may be sources from other countries in the name of aid or funds. They may make their own corpus. They may make their own corpus from collection of money in terms of fees extra. And few institutions are there which seek neither recognition nor aid from the state. So these institutions will have an autonomous body which do not seek recognition and also finance or grant from the state. So these are the three types of educational institutions. So we have few judgments regarding Supreme Court on this. In case of Malankara Syrian Catholic College case, it's a case of Kerala regarding two orthodox sects of Christianity. They have fought over the property of the church, and it's still a big issue. So minority educational institutions have to choose its own governing body. Here this case can be contradictory to equal opportunity in appointment. So in educational institutions, especially for minorities, that minority governing body or the group of directors could choose anyone, maybe teaching or non-teaching staff or any person who is employed in such educational institutions. So they have all the right to choose anyone for the post. Appointment of teacher and non-teaching staffs. They can also show some privilege to admit certain students who are from that community. So the government only interferes when there is a threat to the standards or qualification of any staff. if under UGC guidelines, that is University Grant Commission guidelines, the institutions, educational institutions, be it college, school or university, they have to follow certain standards by the state, given by the state. So that might be eligibility or the educational standards or the standard in the syllabus. If it is not following the instructions or the standards prescribed by the government, the government can interfere and it could regulate such activities, regulations, to prevent exploitation of employees or students. So in general, the government do not interfere in the matters of minority educational institutions. But obviously when there is a threat or when the standard is not to the level, the government will interfere and regulate the activities. So at a glance, we just see that cultural and educational rights, Article 29-30. Article 29 says protection of interest of minorities. Here minorities is not only minorities, but I say linguistic and religious minorities. So here both minorities as well as majorities are included. In majorities also we may find linguistic minorities. So this is protection of interest. It may be in terms of language, script, culture. When we say Article 30, this article gives right to establish their own educational institutions. And not only establishment, they could administer, they could maintain, they could run such institutions under the law of land. So thanks for watching my video. This is regarding fundamental rights, that is cultural and educational rights under Article 29 and 30. Thank you. Keep watching Telugu One Academy classes.